It is said that man lives on bread, but he does not live for bread alone. Yet, all the same, food is one of the absolutely important things in our life. But how important is it in the world of One Piece? No, One Piece isn't all about food. It is not a food-based anime or a cooking anime like Food Wars or Toriko. However, it does stress enormous importance on food. So of course, spoiler warning for anyone not caught up to chapter 1062 of One Piece, that's the latest chapter. So I wanted to make a video about the crucial importance of food in One Piece after reading that chapter. As stated by Vegapunk, or one of the Vegapunks, Vegapunk number 5 or 6. So he has been able to invent an instant vending machine, or quote, an unmanned cooking device which can turn raw ingredients into one of 500 cooking dishes in under 1 minute. It's an amazing invention, right? Not only for people like Luffy and Bonnie, but think about those in poverty, like the people in Ebisu town. How important would that device be for those people? However, and here's the catch, I don't like the idea of the unmanned cooking device. I don't think that it's a good fit for the themes of One Piece. Yes, technology is very important in the story, and especially since we have finally seen Vegapunk after what? After several hundreds of chapters of hype, we can definitely expect that Oda will definitely do something crazy with Vegapunk. However, the thing that he introduced, I don't think that will come true, because that automatic vending machine will devalue or at least undervalue the concept of food by hyping up Vegapunk too much. It's too much of a sacrifice. The idea of having an automatic vending machine that can create 500 dishes is just too much. If all of a sudden, due to some technology, no one needed to cook anything, it would look very bad for one of the very central pieces of One Piece, which is food. So in this video, I discuss how crucially important food is in One Piece and why the unmanned cooking device will not and should not be used by the common people. First, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you. So let's start with some major characters and their ties with food. Sanji's entire character is based on food and girls, and we get introduced to him in the Baratie, one of my favorite mini arcs ever. And the owners Zeph and Sanji share one of my absolutely favorite backstories of all time, of all anime, and that also regards food, where very tragically Zeph and Sanji, especially Zeph, he actually eats his own leg after starving for about 2 months. The exact number of days actually varies in the anime and in the manga, so I'll not be talking about that, but it was about 2 months. So Sanji has also other great moments in that arc regarding food, like feeding Gin, who ended up helping the Straw Hats at the end by taking Don Krieg away. And of course, Sanji's dream is to find the All Blue, where all the fish from all the 4 blues can be caught. It will most likely be the case that, whether or not you subscribe to the theory that One Piece is a worldwide feast, regardless of that, when Luffy does indeed find the One Piece, there will be a huge feast afterward. Most major arcs and the sagas do end with large feasts, and in my opinion, it will be Sanji, none other than Sanji, Vinsmoke Sanji, who is the head chef of the One Piece feast, and he will cook from catching fish in the All Blue. So ironically, I was talking about Sanji, but also when we see Zoro, we see a similar thing. So he was also starving when we see him. For weeks, he had not eaten anything. But when a small girl arrives and gives him a homemade rice ball, onigiri, so Zoro eats it even though it is soiled in the mud. Interestingly, Ryokoku Green Bull, which many people thought that he was Zoro's father, so Green Bull also made a similar comment about not eating food unless a young girl feeds him. In Wano, the 3 samurai with Yamato also do not eat, claiming that samurai do not get hungry. Yamato also fasts when praying for the Straw Hat's recovery. Thus, we can see that in so many ways, Oda is subtly bringing in the importance of food. Another major character whose character arc revolves around food is Big Mom. Like Luffy, she cannot control her hunger. However, unlike Luffy, she goes on rampages and is a menace to friend and foe alike when she is hungry. The first time we see Big Mom actually, she is angry about not receiving food from Fishman Island. And the first time we see her in Whole Cake Island, she is craving for croquembouche and calms down only when Jimbei brings one to her. Of course, we all remember how the climax of Whole Cake Island happened when Big Mom was rampaging for a wedding cake. Wedding cake. So Big Mom also rampaged in Wano for Oshiruku, or you can say red bean soup, that's the English, and helped Nami, Usopp, and Tama versus Page 1 and Ulti. Thus, food is also used in One Piece as a plot device. So there are many other plot relevant reasons where food is used. For example, Luffy deeply appreciates people who feed him, such as Rebecca and Tama. He also repeatedly said that he wanted to defeat Kaido so that Wano can become a place where his friends can eat as much as they want. That was the entire drive for Luffy. Moreover, we saw some deeply emotional scenes because of food. For example, the people of Ebisu town, the people who ate smiles, they were actually tricked into eating those smile devil fruits because they were too hungry. So that was a very, very sad scene in my opinion. That's a very sad short storyline. Moving away from Wano, just remember how heart-wrenching it was to see Luffy versus Sanji. I actually cried watching it. Luffy promised to Sanji that he would not move or eat one bite until Sanji would bring food for him. When Sanji did end up bringing him the soiled and ruined food, Luffy ate all of it with genuine smiles on his face. Similarly, Sanji's mom, Sora, also ate nasty food made by the young Sanji just for his happiness. So this also reminds me of Dr. Hireluk, who also consumed the poisonous mushroom brought by Chopper for similar reasons, because Chopper didn't know. So I would also like to touch on the non-canon film Gold as well. So though the movie is controversial, I know, but still, I genuinely liked the gold prison section where half-dead people were offering the Straw Hats all the gold in the world for some food and water. For them, no amount of gold and jewelry was valuable if they couldn't eat. Similarly, one major motif in Alabasta was rainwater. In the desert, few things are as important as water. Normally, the Straw Hats are normally portrayed as badass and unfazed by most situations, besides Nami, Chopper, and Usopp, by the way, but besides them, the other Straw Hats. So, however, in the dry and hot desert, Luffy had his tongue out and the others were suffering as well for the lack of water. So cruel is the power of fate in One Piece. Thus far, I have discussed how food is relevant to the story of One Piece in many different ways. So let me just list them. It is important as a prize, number one, such as a post-arc feast. And it is also important to the deprived people who are starving. And this creates sympathy for characters and anger against the villains. And it is also important as a plot device, such as for Big Mom. And food is also important in serving as Luffy's primary goal of defeating an antagonist, namely Kaido. And it is also important to survive. In most other stories, such as in Naruto, Dragon Ball, Bleach, Hunter x Hunter, food is simply important for one or two of the discussed reasons, not more. For example, in Hunter x Hunter, one of my favorite anime by the way, but still, food is not really important. It's only relevant in the third stage of the hunter's exam, and gourmet hunters aren't really shown elsewhere. In One Piece, however, its importance is, as I discussed just now, manifold. I am not finished though. One other character has a massive role in the theme of food in One Piece. That character is Stroisen. Do you remember Stroisen? So that person is essentially the person who took in Big Mom and co-founded the Big Mom crew. So he was like the treble of Doflamingo. I think is also Big Mom's first husband, as Perospero looks like him, but that's another story for another time. The relevant thing here is that his devil fruit, the Kuku Kuku no Mi, can turn anything into food. Yes, anything intangible. Any non-living thing that he touches or he cuts, he can turn it into food. For example, he can turn logs into steaks. However, the catch here is that the food he makes is edible but not tasty. It is not tasty, but it can be eaten. Therefore, he does not overly rely on his devil fruit, and he's actually the best chef in whole Cake Island. So it's not just a magical power given to him by a mythical fruit. It's not that, it's his skills which are important. So Stroisen's devil fruit abilities and most importantly limitation is what has actually made me sure that Vegapunk's unmanned cooking device won't do. Yes, it works. It definitely works. We saw it in the chapter, but it has a lot of limitations, or at least Oda will have to limit it to a large extent. So I can parallel it to I'm Summers or Im Summers, like 16 holy bullets. Like he can use it for basically everything, but he won't. Oda has to limit him, or maybe there will be some restrictions that are revealed, like he can only use it once a year or once every reverie or something like that, or for very special occasions because he doesn't want to draw attention to himself, something like that. It has to be limited. It cannot just be used for about any dangerous enemy. So, just as how Stroisen can make food from any non-living thing, similarly with the right ingredients, the unmanned cooking machine can also cook any of 500 dishes within 1 minute. However, what about the quality, I ask you? Will it be as good as passionately cooked dishes by talented chefs like Stroisen or Sanji? I don't think so. For example, if you look at the exact food items mentioned in the chapter, you can look it up also, but I'm also listing it. It's actually a hamburger, a drink, steak, omurice, tonkatsu, cotton candy, cake, ramen, fried chicken, and hot dogs. Okay, so these 10 were mentioned in particular. And if you notice, all of these are fast food, especially hamburgers, fried chicken, and hot dogs, right? And the others also can be made. It doesn't have to be made by specially trained chefs. So these food can simply be bought and stored, and most of these can be fried or heated before consuming them. In other words, if you compare this to our world, you can think of Vegapunk's creation as like a fast food joint, right? So where you can get your food in less than 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whereas for proper restaurant meals, you would still need human chefs. You cannot just robotize them. Those high quality food cannot be cooked by a robot, whereas Stroisen's devil fruit can foodify anything, you can say. It cannot make tasty food. As for the unmanned cooking device, tasty food is possible, but more passionately and personally cooked dishes by human beings and more tastier food like Luffy wants to eat from Sanji, but that is not possible by that machine, by that unmanned cooking device. Moreover, there are other restrictions Oda himself put in. For instance, he established that raw ingredients are needed for the unmanned cooking device. It cannot obviously produce food from thin air, obviously not. Furthermore, it is explicitly mentioned that the unmanned cooking device cannot be mass produced. For one reason or another, for example, he gave the reason of a lack of funds. But still, I don't think that Oda will ever make regular people use the device and give up cooking altogether. It can be something like only the rich can buy it or things like that, but the ordinary people will not. So Vegapunk also mentions that the make do with what you've got mode of that device is the best. So think about that term for a second. Let me repeat it. Make do with what you've got. So this phrase itself suggests that this unmanned cooking device can be used as an alternative, but never as a substitute to real cooked dishes by human hands. Technology cannot and should not replace human beings in cooking. It's just like an alternative. If you do not have highly specialized chefs, highly talented chefs, then you have to make do with what you've got, which is the unmanned cooking device, which is a robot basically. Here are some updates. In chapter 1063, it was implied that everyone will like Dr. Vegapunk's automatic cooking machine besides Sanji. Also, in film Red, there was a close-up of Sanji's face when he saw Uta's Sing Sing fruit manifesting a ton of food. He didn't badmouth Uta and her powers, as he is a gentleman, but the camera close-up of his face might very well be a sign that he doesn't approve of the power. So I would like to end the video by mentioning the idea of devil fruits. They are the quirky methods of gaining power in the world of One Piece. Whereas in most shonen anime, characters become strong through destiny and or training. One Piece also has training, but it also has the ridiculous but fun idea of actually having to consume a fruit to gain magical powers. In Popeye, of course, spinach would give Popeye immensely temporary power, and in My Hero Academia, Deku had to eat a strand of of hair, right? All Might's hair to gain to as part one process of his training. But devil fruits are also immense, like spinach, but they are also permanent. They are not temporary, and however, they also have a debilitating side effect. Also, fun fact: devil fruits taste absolutely disgusting. Even Luffy thought that it was disgusting, but he still ate it. It is as if tasty food can only be made and prepared by kind, passionate, and most importantly, human hands. Thank you everyone. Please subscribe.